Whenever I make my way down the hill to where my grandparents used to live at Bartlettsville, it brings back a flood of memories. They were two people that loved my brother and I more than anything else in this world. You just don't forget it, no matter how many decades it's been. And when Grandma made dinner, it felt like it could feed an army. You definitely weren't walking away hungry. But there's one thing I remember especially well. Coke in glass bottles. We didn't have those at home, so when we visited, it felt special. My grandparents once ran a small country grocery store next to their house. One of those with the old tin advertisements on the outside, later converted to their garage. And whenever we rolled into town, there would be crates of Coke waiting for us just inside the garage door. It seems like forever ago. For a kid growing up in Greenwood, otherwise known as the big city, grabbing one of those bottles and popping the metal cap felt like a moment of magic. Every great once in a while, when I come across a Coke in a glass bottle, I'll get one. Not because it's a great value, but because it's a great memory and it takes me back. It's odd how a little glass bottle can do all that. But Coca-Cola is more than just a soft drink. It's a global icon with a very bizarre past. From a bottle design with a secret meaning, born right here in Indiana, to a special ingredient that was a bit more intense than caffeine. Let's take a road trip back in time to explore the strange, true, and occasionally high-spirited legend of Coca-Cola. Long before Coca-Cola became a global icon, it was something very different. It was medicine. In 1886, an Atlanta pharmacist named John Stith Pemberton created a syrup for headaches, fatigue, and even morphine addiction. It was mixed with water and sold at soda fountains. And how exactly did he expect this magic to happen? First off was caffeine and taste from the cola nut. People in West Africa chewed the nut to get a caffeine buzz, so it was already a known commodity. The original formula also used the coca leaf, which is where cocaine comes from. From 1885 to 1891, every Coke allegedly had about 9 grams. Coca-Cola was just the thing for all your ailments. It was legal and common in many products. It showed up in toothache drops, cough syrups, or something to calm your nerves. It even found its way in hair care products. If you're lucky, you can still find empty antique syrup bottles, either listing that ingredient or that it's been removed. They are true collector's items. They weren't hiding anything. It was right there in the name, Coca-Cola. But by the early 1900s, it was realized just how bad an idea it was to medicate people with a soft drink. So Coca-Cola made a change. By 1904, the illicit chemical was removed from the recipe. But here's a fun fact that most people don't know. They never removed the coca leaf from the recipe. To this day, Coca-Cola is the only company in the United States legally allowed to import coca leaves, mostly from Peru. The leaves are processed by a pharmaceutical company in New Jersey called the Stepan Company. The cocaine is fully extracted. What remains is a flavoring agent from the leaf. The drug is then packaged for regulated medical use. And here's a fun fact. Not only is there no cocaine, there's also very little cola in the recipe today. The caffeine actually comes from coffee companies that extract caffeine from coffee beans to make decaffeinated coffee. But there are more unusual facts ahead. Even with the recipe change, people still love the taste of Coca-Cola. But it wasn't the only soft drink. There were many competitors. Coke needed some way to truly stand out. They needed more than just a fancy gimmick. They needed a way to make the product personal to anyone, almost anywhere in the world. The color red, the script logo, the sound of carbonation. Even the Coke machine didn't sell just Coke, it sold an experience, a moment in time. When you inserted a coin, you heard it hit the collection box. You heard rollers move the bottle. When you popped the cap, you heard a distinct sound, as well as carbonated fizz. And then there was that unique taste, sweet and bubbling on your tongue. The experience was not accidental, it was psychologically engineered. The Coca-Cola company created a massive marketing campaign, inventing all kinds of promotional items. You still see old and very collectible Coke signs all over the place. These campaigns were so successful that they changed American culture. For example, before these ads, Santa Claus did not always wear red. Before then, he often wore long green, brown, tan, and yellow robes. As Saint Nick was a Catholic icon, he did wear red. But it was nothing like the two-piece suit that we saw in the Coke ads. In some old illustrations, Santa looked a little scary. But the Coke ads turned him into a jolly grandpa-like character, and Grandpa Santa was always drinking a Coke. To say the least, polar bears were not always considered to be cute and goofy. They were in fact the largest predator in North America and very hazardous to your health, but they now have outstanding PR. Today all Coke merchandise is collectible. The older stuff goes for a small ransom. My collection started with a t-shirt, but it has grown over time. And the weird thing about it, there's no logical reason why we should collect or like any of it. We're spending our own money to advertise Coke. I don't think that anything I've collected is worth much, but I enjoy looking at it. It brings back good memories and nostalgia, and that's exactly what the company wanted. A brand name that's always in people's minds and encouraging the next purchase. I still have the Coke bottles from where I took my wife to a small country store when we were dating. It's a fond memory, and even though it makes no sense to hold on to a container for a soft drink, I've kept them for nearly 30 years. My most prized items in the collection are these Coke bottles that Dad brought back from Israel. I was just a little boy when he took that trip, but I remember him showing us the bottles, and we all thought they were cool. To this day, I still can't read the language. And yet I still know it's a Coke bottle, and there's a very strange reason for that. In 1915, Coca-Cola issued a challenge. They already had a bottle, but they wanted a design so distinctive that it could be recognized in the dark, or even broken on the ground. The winning design came from the Root Glass Company of Terre Haute, Indiana, but here's where it gets crazy. The design team went to the local library to research the drink's ingredients for inspiration. While looking for information about the coca plant and the cola nut, they stumbled upon an illustration. A cocoa bean pod, that's where chocolate comes from. Even though they realized that cocoa was not in Coca-Cola, they loved the pod's sensual shape, bulging in the middle, and deep vertical grooves. So they sketched a bottle based on that shape, and it won the contest hands down. So when you look at a Coke bottle, you're actually looking at a cocoa bean pod that has absolutely nothing to do with Coke. But it doesn't matter. Even without a label, you know exactly what it is. It fit your hand perfectly, and it felt like it was made just for you. It became one of the most recognizable industrial designs in the world. And it started right here at Terre Haute, Indiana. The Vigo County Museum celebrates that heritage. Inside the museum, you can stop at the Apgar Soda Shop. You can get a Coke and pretend you're sipping it at a glorious place in time. The strange thing is, those of us that did not live in the 1950s still feel the nostalgia. The marketing is practically in our DNA. Also in the museum is an assembly line, like many independent bottling companies across Indiana. I can remember arguments about the water at different bottling plants, making a different tasting Coke. Why, I can tell this Coke was made at the Bedford bottling plant. It tastes like genuine cave water. But here's the deal. The water at the bottling plant was filtered. The ice cubes you made at home from the faucet were not. It's supposed to be a consistent product, but for a fact, the Cokes at McDonald's do taste different. By special agreement, the syrup is delivered in stainless steel containers instead of plastic. Even the straws are designed wider to provide a better taste profile. It's deep corporate science. You didn't have a chance. Whether it's a cafe, a stop at McDonald's, a corner store, a picnic, a day on the deck, or a good old-fashioned road trip, Coca-Cola always feels familiar. It went from being a medicine, to a marketing experiment, to a global symbol that the entire world recognizes. But for a lot of us, it's more than that. It's a special memory. Not because it's rare, not because it's expensive, but because it reminds us of people, places, moments. Ads you saw on TV many decades ago. Or in my case, I'm transported back to Grandma and Grandpa's house, where beef and potatoes, green beans, sweet corn, cornbread, and strawberry jelly are all on the table. And cooling on the counter is a pumpkin pie waiting for that generous amount of Cool Whip, all of it traced by a Coke. With a Coke and my imagination, I relive the most precious memories of my life again. One sip at a time.